Welcome to Be Now for Tuesday, April the 11th. My name is Don McLeod, and I am joined by Fazal Khan as usual. Faz, how's it going today?
I'm good, Don. As you see, I'm in a t-shirt because it's a sizzler outside.
Yeah, it was a gorgeous day today. For the whole week it's supposed to be, and then if you take a look at next week, it's like 11 degrees or something like that. So take advantage of this week while you can, because it's going to go down a little bit next week.
The weather people can't predict next week, Don, so just forget about that.
All right, we'll forget about that.
You got to think positively, and we will have sun again next week.
All right. Anyway, we got a show today. What's on the agenda right off the bat? We want to talk about what?
So the main, as you know, last week, Don, we had a segment on what's happening with the Brampton Civic Centre, and a lot is happening there. The TMU Medical School is moving in, but that means everybody in there, including the Brampton Library, has to move out. And we had a lot of people commenting and asking questions that we didn't know the answers to. And so today we figured we'd have the guy who hopefully has all the answers, which is Todd Kyle, who is the CEO of Brampton Library. But before we get to Todd, we'll spend most of the show on Todd. So everybody queue up your questions, and we'll try to get through all of them. And I know, Don, you have lots of questions. So I guess in the last week or so, the big thing that happened in the city was the regular two-way weekend GO train service started on Saturday and Sunday. I went on the first inaugural train, and it was, to be honest, Don, I don't use the GO train very regularly. In fact, I cannot remember the last time I was on the GO train, and it was very pleasant. Normally when I go to Toronto, I'm driving, with 2 or 3 family members, and I'm always stressed. I get to Toronto and I'm stressed about finding parking. When we're in the restaurant or wherever, it's like, is the meter running out? I got to go run back out. Or, just the hustle and bustle of downtown Toronto and all the cars.
So what time did you go in? What was the time frame you went into Toronto on the weekend?
So I think the train left at 7:55 and it got there around 8:30. And there was surprisingly a number of people on the train. And then at Union Station, it picked up people in Brampton, in Bramley, and I think it also stopped in Malton, and there was another stop in Toronto. I can't remember which one it was, and then going back, it was actually more full. So it was. I think it's a fantastic. I can't see myself driving to Toronto anymore, to be honest.
No, if it's on the weekend, I mean, the Jays are back in town. Their home opener is tonight, so that's going to be interesting. And I know that, especially in Toronto and stuff like that, they're offering free transit for the first one. But, if you're going on a weekend, it's a great way to get downtown and get back without dealing with the headaches of dealing with the Don Valley, the Gardner, and everything else in between. And like you said, dealing with the parking, that's another issue as well. So, hopefully that's more people use that. I mean, we've been asking for it for I don't know how many decades. So we finally got it. So let's use it. So they can't cancel it because there's no ridership.
I thought I needed a Presto card, and I didn't. I went online, bought a day pass. It was $10, and I thought I could somehow scam that day pass, not activate it. And then I figured out the little thing they do to force you to activate it is once you click the button to activate, it takes 5 minutes to activate. So if the guy that comes to check your ticket is coming and you think you can activate it, then you got 5 minutes, and chances are he's going to be there before the 5 minutes and you're going to get caught. So they've thought about these things now, but it was $10 and it's unlimited. You can actually go to Union and then hop on another train, I guess, go to Oakville from Lakeshore if you wanted to do that and come back, and it's the same price. So I think it's a fantastic deal.
Yeah, and so like I said, I mean, let's hopefully the ridership keeps going, because you don't want to cancel the year from now saying nobody rides it on the weekend. So,
well, I think one of the reasons they know the data, right? They know how many people are using using the Go bus on all the different connection points. So they know that there's traffic and demand there. So I don't think that's going to be an issue. In fact, this summer, I think you'll see a lot of people from Toronto coming. Even this weekend, there's the international women's hockey tournament going on. There's the Jazz Festival in September, which I think will do well because of this. There's the farmers market every Saturday. So there's a lot of reasons to go both ways, which is fantastic. The only issue, Don, is my son pointed it out. He went downtown. He took the train from the Brampton GO station, so downtown. And he said when he was coming back, there were people in the tunnels kind of with their drug paraphernalia, lying around. He said they weren't using it, but it's definitely not a good look. And he's already told me the next time he goes to Toronto, he's going to the Bramley GO station, not to downtown Brampton.
Yeah,
so that is something that needs to be cleaned up. We don't want people from Toronto coming in seeing that.
Yeah. All right. Okay. But yeah, that's good. We finally got something that we've been asking for quite a while, right?
Yeah. Okay, and that's it. I didn't want to talk too much unless you had anything else. Then we'll go.
No. We're going to get right into it. We're going to talk to Todd Kyle. Right now, we're going to bring him on board. And Todd, thank you for joining us.
Hang on a sec.
Great to be here.
I got to press some buttons. Oh, there we go.
There we go. All right. So, Todd, we had a lot of people that were talking about what's happening with the library. There was a lot of people talking about, the time frame, what's happening here. So last week we had a lot of questions we couldn't answer. You reached out and said, well, I can answer them. So today, people, if they're tuning in, they want to answer the questions. We have the CEO of the Brampton Library. He's been the CEO for the last 2 years, and you can answer them.
I'll do my best.
All right, let's get right into it. Obviously, you and J. Paul Massey Singh, who is the board chair of the Brampton Library, are going to be delegating to City Council tomorrow. Yep. What is the main gist of what you are delegating for in regards to the Chinguacousy Library?
So, firstly, we obviously want to make the point and reiterate to council how valued the library is in the community, and of course, we've all seen the sort of outcry that has sort of happened independently in the community, petition, all that kind of stuff, and reiterate how important, in particular, this library branch is within the Civic Centre to a huge number of local residents who, many of whom, don't drive cars, and it's convenient, centrally located, all that sort of thing. But it's really. The board is seeking some assurances from council on some of the unanswered questions. I mean, there's a few unanswered questions about the impact on the library's budget and the cost of moving. The biggest unknown is what is the long-term solution. My discussions with the city have been about, as you know, the Chinguacousy ski chalet. It is not meant to be a long-term solution. We're not quite certain how long our lease is going to be there, but it's a time-limited thing. And so in the long term, we have to look at, now that the Civic Centre is gone, the library has a facilities master plan that talks about eventually having twice as many branches as we currently do. But of course, it never talked about what to do if the biggest one disappears. And so we need to figure out what is needed to serve that community. And if that means embarking on a process to, acquire land and build a building, then that's something that would have to start really early. And so
So let's talk about the square footage that you're going from and you're going to.
Yeah, so the Chinguacousy branch, just the public space alone, is 32,000 square feet. The library in total has about 50,000. There's some staff functions in there that are sort of across the library system, acquiring books and doing outreach and all that kind of stuff that are in there as well. But 32,000 square feet. The ski chalet is about 17,000 square feet. 3,000 or so still has to be retained by recreation to run the ski program. So a big part of it is there's a big garage in there for a snow grooming machine, that sort of thing. And then when you take out, there still has to be, staff offices for ourselves in there. You're really left with about 10,000 usable square feet. And it's a little, if you've ever been in the building, it's a little compartmentalized because it was previously divided up into a bunch of separate, multi-purpose rooms for events and stuff. We're working on sort of taking down a few of the curtain walls, if you will, just to open things up a bit. But it's a little, like I said, a little compartmentalized, but really a third the size of what we currently have, and I'd almost say less.
So let's talk about what you have at the Chinguacousy branch, because I mean, there's, you talked about a whole bunch of different things there, but in the branch itself, you have rooms as well. I mean, I know I've been through that branch many times, and you have different community rooms. You have study spaces. You have recording studio, community art areas for community art, critical space for marginalized, low income individuals. I mean, is any of those going to disappear when you move to the Chinguacousy ski chalet?
The only one that will completely not be able to come with us is the recording studio. We're still trying to figure out where we'd be able to put that. It's not that it's a lot of space. It's just not simple because it needs a soundproofed room. Everything else really will be there, but it'll be much smaller. So we at Chinguacousy we have two large community / study rooms, two other separate study rooms that kind of double as computer labs, and a separate space for a maker space. And really, in the ski chalet, we'll have one room that's currently it's in there called a boardroom now that seats maybe 15 people for programs. Another room that will be a quiet study room. Our maker space is going to be this is a bit of a joke, but I keep calling it the maker bar because we're actually using what used to be a serving bar in one of the multi-purpose rooms to put our maker equipment like 3D printers and stuff on it. So everything really will be smaller. I'm not exactly sure right now. We're still working at the details in terms of the number of seats, because that is really one of the most important things.
All right.
So this community is finding quiet places to study.
Here's a point that many people or some people brought up last week, and Mike Danzy brings it up again, and this is something that we talked about off camera. And that was basically the situation in regards to why couldn't it pay the rent, the old Sears for the library? Why don't you address that situation?
Sure. So between us and the realty people at the city, we did a complete search of all available rentable places in a 2-kilometer radius. And literally the ski chalet was and I mean, it wasn't actually empty. We kind of had to work out some stuff on it. It was really the only thing we could find. So Morgard is simply unwilling to rent to us.
Okay.
Morgard is the
yeah. So Morgard owns the Brampton City Centre. They have that empty Sears building. So you did approach them, and they were not interested.
Yes, they were approached by the city, and I believe I think they may have other plans for it in the long term. Really, what they said was, we might be able to stick you in there for 6 months, but we don't want any renovations and nothing longer than that.
All right. So you're going.
And that would lead me to believe that there's.
Okay. So you did a 2-kilometer search. You're ending up basically. So the ski chalet is basically the only option at this point in time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So let's get into the situation in regards to that. It's not a long-term lease, obviously, right?
No, we haven't determined exactly the length, but yeah, it's not long-term.
So theoretically, in the wintertime, they're still going to be using the ski chalet for ski rentals and stuff like that, right?
Yeah. So we've really worked out a plan to share the space so that really, if you know the building, what is now the counter where you rent ski equipment from that counter and back will be segregated off for the use of recreation.
So the positive to that is someone could ski and then take out a book at the same time.
Well, yeah, I guess, yeah. Well, actually, the other irony, of course, about this building, and you can even see it in the picture, is there's 2 second-floor outdoor viewing decks that are meant for people to, I guess, watch people ski, and we'll maintain those. We plan to put outdoor furniture on those, and obviously seasonally they will be great places to sort of read and study from. But yeah, I can imagine parents go into this building now to watch their kids ski from the viewing deck. I'm sure they will afterwards too.
Now, something that you mentioned also in this delegation that you're going to be talking about tomorrow, it's not only the Chinguacousy ski chalet you're moving to, but apparently the 129 Glidden Road is as well.
Yeah, so that won't be a public building. So 129 Glidden is the former Fire and Emergency Services Emergency Operations Center, right. So it's owned by the city. And so, like I said, there was a whole bunch of other functions that we ran out of Chinguacousy that weren't public facing, and we had to find room for them. Little bit of this is a pretty complicated, a little bit of musical chairs going on. Those will be moving into the second floor of our Four Corners downtown branch. And then our corporate offices, myself, finance, HR, will be moving to Glidden.
Okay, so nothing involved with the library itself will be going to Glidden. It's just the administrative part.
That's right. Yeah, there's nothing valuable. I mean, 129 Glidden's in the middle of an industrial area. Right. It's not a great place for a community amenity at all.
So Todd, I'm gonna jump in on this one. So another question has come up about the library. It is an important asset. Now I know that there's a church, and I think it's in in the general area, North Park area, that has a recording studio. Like, is that something that the library would be interested in partnering with?
Yeah, I'm not aware of that particular one, but certainly, yes, if there's a partnership opportunity, we'd be interested in looking at it. Somebody else mentioned in the comments, couldn't you move the recording studio to Gore Meadows? Actually, ironically, we're in the middle of expanding Gore Meadows, sort of a little bit of extra space within the community center. But the design and the contracts were done too long ago to change them now. And we also have to move one little piece of our operation, our shipping and receiving, has to move to Gore Meadows because none of the other buildings we own have the right facility to receive, basically receive books, if you will.
There's another question from Justin Kang saying that Councillor Frattini had mentioned relocating the library to the old 21 Police Division lot north of the bus terminal. Any thoughts on that?
Again, that would involve a much longer term solution. That would involve construction and likely acquiring land, and certainly that might be a good candidate if we get the right assurances and the right resources, if you will. That might be a good candidate. That is also a great location. And in response to the other question that's coming up, no, TMU is not contributing financially at all.
So let's talk about the financial aspect. Basically, you get, 95% of your funding from the city and maybe 5% from the province. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's about it. Yeah.
Okay, so you're delegating tomorrow, basically, because there's a whole bunch of different costs associated with this move. Do you want to go through those, or do you want me to read them off?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, you're delegating. You're asking City Council to basically commit to paying costs associated with the move, including the leasehold improvements in any new locations. You're asking also to review the annual budget and adjusting it. I would assume the adjustment is going north, not south. And committing to the relocation for the Chinguacousy is temporary. We're talking about, I think in the letter here, the J. Paul, additional costs of staffing is projected to run $260,000 annually. That's not in the budget, and you're talking about estimated for the change to the chalet is about $500,000. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's correct. And just to be clear, so the other thing that we're trying to do at the same time, because we're really concerned about having less capacity to serve the community, is we're exploring, and in fact have put in an offer on leasing a space for an additional library branch in a completely different area of the city, which I know doesn't help the residents of Bramalea. And it's the balance between what we currently pay, and so just to make it clear, we pay almost $1.3 million in rent annually for the Civic Centre, and we're basically taking that, applying a portion of it to the ski chalet, a portion of it to 129 Glidden, and it leaves us enough left over to likely rent another space for another small library branch someplace else, and I can't reveal where that is. And then where that leaves us short is in the operating costs. So unfortunately, the libraries are smaller, but the number of staff required to be in them is larger than what we currently have. And so there would be some additional staffing costs to make sure that both of those.
Now, I was going through the library last week, and I noticed you're already selling off some of your books. Is that something that you're planning on doing from now till the move, to sell off some of the inventory?
Absolutely. Yeah. So there's the collection capacity in Chinguacousy is roughly 80,000 items. The ski chalet, our plan shows us fitting to 20 to 25,000. And interestingly, only on the main floor. The second floor is actually not built to the right standard to hold library stacks. It wasn't built as a library. And maybe another 20,000 will be able to go to this 9th branch that we're planning. It leaves us with maybe 30,000 items that none of our locations can accommodate. And so, yes, we absolutely will be selling stuff off as we move along. And which is very, very unfortunate. I mean, we considered the idea of putting them in storage, but the cost of storage, and then considering that many of those items will then be stale a few years down the line when we might be able to accommodate them again, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, you can't put them in a shipping container because everyone knows over time it's like you've got damage and mold and everything else that's connected with that.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely.
So Short term, I mean, Brampton, people are talking about Brampton has got the lowest amount of library system in Canada. What's the percentage? I know you know it because you're the CEO. What is that?
Yeah, so we measure it. One of the things we measured is either number of branches or number of square feet per capita, and we are our square feet per capita is at just under zero point 0.3. It's about 0.29, the lowest of all major cities in Canada, the lowest of all GTA municipalities. The average in the GTA is 0.57. So really as a comparison, so we have 8 branches, 700,000 people. Mississauga has a million people, if I'm not incorrect.
Close to it.
Close to
Close
a
to
million
it. I don't
people.
think they've hit a million yet, but
They have 18 branches. And in fact, they had 18 branches in 2007 because I worked there and I opened the 18th branch. So many municipalities way ahead of us on that. And unfortunately, in this mix of moving, even if we are able to open this 9th branch, we're still lower in terms of our number of square feet.
So let me ask you a question, because I mean, years ago we did an interview with June Dixon, who is still with the Brampton Library. We talked about how libraries have morphed, right? I'm from the school where you go into a library, it's one of these old buildings, and it's filled with books, and everything's quiet. You're doing research. The library today is not the library of like 50 years ago or 60 years ago in North America. It's changed, it's evolved, it's become, as June said, it's almost like a community center. Is that something that is good for the library, or good for the community, or bad for the community, or bad for the library? How do you see the morphing of the library is in North America, or in Brampton, let's say?
Well, and North America is the right question. I mean, I'm regularly in touch with all my colleagues across North America, and you're absolutely correct. I mean, it's changed in terms of what you see the space used for. It used to be like a warehouse for books. There's often less books. Shelves are lower. A lot more seating. A lot more comfortable seating. A lot more program area, technology area, maker spaces, computers, that sort of thing. In a sense, though, I mean, it is a change and it isn't a change, because the public libraries in North America have always been about making sure that learning and literacy and community resources are available to everyone. And at one time, the primary vehicle for that was books. But the truth is, there was a lot of other vehicles for that, and it includes, technology, the devices, the internet access, online resources. And if people don't know, we provide a whole suite to our library card holders online of ebooks, e-audio, all sorts of learning things, streaming video, all that. So all of that is in that mix, and community services too as well. Because if your mission is to make sure that everyone, regardless of their abilities or the income levels, are able to get access to, not just sort of printed material, but the tools that they need to succeed in their lives, then certainly that is what makes us, in many ways, a prime center of the community. And a best example is many of our branches, including Chinguacousy, we have a settlement worker who works there through a partnership with the federal government called the Library Settlement Partnership. And we have a settlement worker who is there at all times, available for somebody to come in who needs help finding, housing, employment, that sort of thing. And they also do ESL classes. So that's the sort of thing that we do. And so, yes, I absolutely think it's the right way to invent ourselves. We really have become one of the few places now, public or private sector, where there is absolutely no need to spend any money to take advantage of the resources. And we're quite proud of that.
So let's talk about the throughput. How many people go through the Chinguacousy Library? Obviously, it's the biggest square footage library in Brampton at this point in time. How many people go through it in a day, and what's the age range? Do you have an idea?
So, well, on a monthly basis, and I guess we can divide
Okay.
this up, but on a monthly basis, and this is actually, this is recent, it's about 20,000 people, which is actually low, because prior to the pandemic, the foot traffic in public libraries all across North America was higher, and it's only very slowly recovering. And the age ranges, I mean, I can't tell you who comes through the door. We can't measure all those things as they come through the door, but obviously there's it really is all ages. depending on what people are looking for. And in terms of the materials and the programs that we offer are geared towards really across the board. And I can also tell you, for example, that so if it's 20,000 people that come through the doors roughly every month, 28,000 items are loaned, 2,500 times our computers are used, and 28% of the households surrounding us, if you just look at the census tracts, are active library users. And so those are things we can track, like library card users. They actually do something that they need.
I mean, you're in an area basically that's surrounded by Knightsbridge, which is, a lot of, even you mentioned it, low income families along that area. Higher income neighborhoods basically have lower percentage of people going to the library. It's adverse the other way. The situation that you're in now, and talking about, like, you're looking at a temporary area, where would you like to, is it possible to actually, I mean, Chinguacousy Park is a big area. Is that something that, perhaps they could build a permanent library on that location?
Yeah, it certainly is possible. Obviously, it's city-owned land. I don't know. Maybe the Conservation Authority might have something to say about it. I really have no idea. The truth is, and you talked about it yourself in the beginning about where the current location is. When I look back at the history of Brampton City Centre, Civic Centre, that whole precinct, it was designed with a particular purpose in mind, right? It was meant to be the hub, commercially, recreationally, institutionally, social services, police, government buildings. It was meant to be everything located in one area, within walking or transit accessibility of an awful lot of people. And the park is part of that. I would say
the actual city hall was in that area before.
Yeah. I mean, it was originally Chinguacousy Township when it was built, that's the original vision, and it's quite actually exciting to look back at it. And I mean, I've grown up in the GTA, and I was aware of it when I was young. Really was there was a real reason for the vision, my goal, if possible, would be to be as close to that vision as possible.
So, Todd, I cut off Don's microphone because he was asking too many questions and wasn't giving me a chance. So Justin raises a good question, and it's I know a lot of people, or especially they're tuning in, are maybe more interested in what's happening in the Brampton area. Where I live in Brampton, which is the southwest, the same place they're putting the Hamilton Community Center. I haven't had access to the community center nor a library, really, like at least what was in Brampton. Yeah. What were the expansion plans before this incident, and is it changed? And I know, maybe talk also about the Center for Innovation, because I know a central library was being planned for there. What is the big vision of the Brampton of the library?
Yeah, so our plan was done in 2021. So, unfortunately, I couldn't take stock of the current situation we're talking about. But there was certainly a plan for an Embleton Library Branch. I mean, there is one in that area. We call it Southwest. It's in the Lionhead Marketplace on Mississauga Road, but it's very small, 6,000 square feet, and has limited hours. So there's definitely plans for it there. There's a plan for one or two branches in the Northwest when the Heritage Heights developments eventually get put in. A plan for one in the East End, Southeast, where all we currently have is Gore Meadows. And then there was also plans, and I think these may be coming to fruition. The city and developers are looking to build 3 what they call urban community hubs. So sort of dense, walkable neighborhoods, one at where it is now Shoppers World, one at Queen and Rutherford, and one on the CAA property. And we had planned and we have been working on hopefully eventually putting in, they would be fairly small library branches there. And then the Center for Innovation, obviously that's in its sort of planning design stage. Design's completed, but hasn't started construction. And the intention there is to replace our existing downtown Four Corners library with a new central downtown library, sharing a building with a college or university. And really, it would be very much very much of a shared space. So even more in terms of the availability of all sorts of study spaces, because it would be serving a lot of those students as well.
Okay, well, you certainly have your work ahead of you. You and the board will be keenly watching the council meeting tomorrow. I don't see any more questions. Don, do you have any, or should we
No,
let
that's
that
good. I
go?
think we've covered everything. Todd, thank you for joining us. It's
Well,
always, it's always interesting to hear from someone in the community that's got a pulse on what they're doing and willing to share that with the general public. So that's important because citizens want to be involved. They want to be involved in the community and the decisions that city council makes. So it's an important part of democracy to hear from people, whether it be the CEO or the board of what's going on. And, unfortunately, it's a situation that was raised. And in this situation, it wasn't just what's going on in the library. It's because of you having to move. But, going forward, we'd like to, possibly have you back on, see what's going on in regards to this. And possible expansion, as Faz mentioned, about library branches in the city, because I think it's important. Libraries are, and as we said before, they're changing into community hubs, and I think it's a part where it brings communities together, and it's a good meeting place for a lot of different things.
well, this has been great. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Anytime.
All right, thank you
All
for
right.
joining us, and good luck for the delegation tomorrow. Thanks, Todd.
Thanks.
All right, Faz. So that wraps it up for April 11th. A lot of information from Todd.
Yeah, Mike Danzy had a question, but then I realized Mike is in the computer recycling business, so that's a self-interested question, self-interest question from Mike. And then Karen, who's a normal contributor, also thanks Todd. Todd,
Well,
not Kyle.
Well, hopefully there's a lot of people that wanted questions answered last week. They got their answers. Like I said, if you want to tune in tomorrow, they are delegating at the Committee of Council tomorrow at City Hall. So you can go in and click the link, and then you can actually see the delegation if you can't make it down to the City Hall tomorrow.
Yeah, and I think as Todd was saying, 20-something thousand people use the library. I don't know if they've started putting a notice up saying we're shutting down, but I think that's going to be a shock to 19,950 people because this is I don't know how they communicate this message in a positive way, because I don't see a positive here right now.
Well, I don't know how far they've gone with that. When I was in the library, I didn't see anything saying that we are moving. So there's no signs up as of yet. So we'll see what happens, but we'll keep on it. And if there's anything more that we need to talk to, then we'll ask Todd to come back or someone from the board.
Okay, and Todd did send us a note, Mike, that they are moving all the equipment. So hands off.
Mike's always looking for stuff. He's like, he gets these free flashlights, and now he wants computers as well. Right?
Okay, Don, we'll talk next week.
Thank you for joining us. And yes, we'll see you next week. Thank you.